The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and welcome to everybody, or good afternoon if you're actually a time zone ahead of us. Welcome to the CRM Dynamics training series on Microsoft Dynamics 365. This particular webinar is going to cover basic customizations. And my name is Glenn Howie, and I am a senior CRM consultant with the company CRM Dynamics. I've been working on the Microsoft Dynamics product for many, many years, since they first rolled it out over 15 years ago. I've had experience with working with many different company types, financial, retail, industrial, which has been a very interesting experience for me. And help them through configuring and customizing the CRM system for them. So what we're going to talk about today, again, the title, Basic Configuration. I'm going to talk about how to alter the forms, and I'll talk about what a form is, how to change the look of the fields that are on the form, and how to alter and change views, which are lists within CRM. And I'll talk about those differences between forms and views. I also like to say what I am not going to talk about. For those of you who have maybe had a bit of experience with Dynamics CRM, you may have heard about these things called solutions and the management of solutions. That's more, to me, more of an intermediate or advanced topic is using solutions. And I'll review those at the end again, but really I'm not going to talk about solution management. Certainly not going to talk about customizations or access to the database level. Customizations, writing code through the Dynamics API is a great topic, something that is probably included on a lot of medium to large projects, but it's not within the scope of our conversation today. So if you want to learn how to write code, again, all these things are covered in some future webinars that we'll have and future training. I'm not going to talk about today about processes, depending which side of the border you're on. Workflows and business process flows. Those are actions that could happen in the background. Like if I change a field name, I want to send out an email. Again, usually an essential part of a Dynamics implementation, but not something I'm going to talk about today. But there are these little things called business rules, which means if I change a field on a form or a value of a field on a form, I want something else to happen. Meaning, say I add a postal code. So I want that postal code to become part of a name field. I just want that data transferred from one part of the form to the other. I want to make it read-only. I want to make it visible or make a field visible based on the value of another field. Those are business rules. I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint of what business rules are all about. So just to preface this, I mean, the reasons for customizing, or we usually use the term configuring. Configuring Dynamics 365 or configuring Dynamics CRM. And sometimes I'll call it CRM, sometimes I'll call it Dynamics 365. I'm using those terms equally, or the same thing in the context of this conversation. But the reason to customize is, well, number one, you don't like the way it looks. And I really don't mean that you don't like the pretty colors, you don't like the format, the fonts. I mean, you don't like the way that the fields are ordered on the screen. Maybe something is at the bottom of the screen and you really like it to be at the top of the screen because that's the thing I use the most. Or it appears way down and I have to scroll way down, so I want to bring it to the top. That's what I mean when you don't like the way it works. It might be on the right and I want to put it on the left. Or there's some information that I need to collect that it just isn't on the form. I need to collect information about, well, and a company I'm talking to now is a service organization that sends service people to the homes. They want to know what kind of pets the people have. So generally in Dynamics, that's not something that's usually exposed on the form. Now, when I say usually exposed, we also use the term out of the box. Dynamics 365 Dynamics CRM is great because it comes with a lot of functionality out of the box without having to do any configuration. It comes with sales processes, sales forms, leads, opportunities. It comes with customer service information. It comes with out of the box information about contacts, about people, about accounts and companies. All that's there, but most of the time we want to add a bit of data to that. It's something particular to our organization, and that's what configuration is all about. So, having said all that, let me go right into our configuration here, and I'm looking at a demonstration system, a demo system that I have set up that has a whole lot of things configured and a whole lot of data in it. And for example, like I have the sales information here, and all this information like accounts and contacts. I have leads and opportunities. I could look at the list of contacts. And I said at the beginning, I said I was going to talk about how to configure views and how I was going to configure forms. Now, while we're on this is a view. This list of contacts is a view, and it has a certain aspects to it, like columns across. I have full name, email, company name, and business phone. That's one type of view. I can change this, and I'll show you after I go through the form configuration how to change this view. But I want more information about a particular contact. My buddy here, my sales contact at this company, Abraham, there's a lot more information about him. So I open up the form. I'm just adjusting my mic for better audio. Is that better, Chanel? Okay, great. My counterpart here has advised me that maybe I'm talking too loud, maybe the mic's too close to my mouth. So hopefully that'll make it a little better. So now I've opened up the contact form for this particular individual, Abraham McCormick. And you can see here, I've got a lot more information about Abraham. I've got his full name. I've got a field for his job title, company name, the email address, business phone, mobile phone. And information here, and I'll talk a little bit about the activities. This should have been, if you've looked at the basic CRM webinar, then you'll know what activities are, you'll know what notes are. I can see all those. I've got some other information on the side here, which actually, because this is out of the box, as I've installed it, Microsoft has decided this information over here should be here. I don't like it, so I want to move that. Actually, I looked at this form here and I say, well, I've got the business phone, I've got the mobile phone down here. I really would want the business phone actually moved up here under job title. That would be kind of better for me because I want it right at the top. So let's move that one. What I can do right from this contact form is I click the little ellipse, single hamburger, whatever name you want to call that, and there's a selection called form here. And when I click that, that will open up the form editor. Now, I'll point out that if you have access to a Dynamics CRM Dynamics 365 instance, and this is the online instance, you will need to have a role, a security role associated with your login as either a system administrator or a system customizer. If you don't have that, you won't see that little role pull down on that form. You won't see that under more commands. You might, and I'll say as you move to other types of forms, that might not be on this pull down. It might be over here, but you'll have to just look to see where that form is. So now I'm going to jump back to the form editor window. And you can see here, actually it comes up in a less than full screen mode. As usual, I can double click on the top bar and maximize it if I want it to a full window. that's your preference. As I said, what I wanted to do was move this business phone up to, maybe just above the company name. Now, all I need to do is click on it. Now, I just clicked on it with my mouse, and I press down the mouse button and just drag it up. It is the form designer, form editor is a drag and drop type editor. I will warn you at times, there are some times that some browsers won't allow you to drag and drop. And there's a couple little secrets there. If you find it doesn't drag and drop for you, you might have to add the CRM URL to the safe sites or your trusted sites. If you don't know how to do that, you'll need to contact your IT administrator, or, well, if you have a support engagement with CRM Dynamics, you can talk to our people as well. Or let me know, and I can hopefully help you out, or have one of our techs help you out with that. By the way, we are tracking questions in the meeting question window. So if you have anything to ask, please send it in. I won't promise I'll answer it right away. One of my partners will hopefully be answering some of the questions, but we'll make sure we answer all we can by the time we end this webinar. So I'm back to the form editor now. So I've done a really quick change. I've dragged that business phone from one spot to another. And what I have to do now is save it. Now, you also have to realize that there are levels of where the customizations are stored within CRM. So I've saved it. This configuration or customization is now saved in the spot in the database of the CRM where all the configurations are stored, but I haven't published it yet, meaning I haven't made it live. So there's 2 steps after I make a form change. I have to save it, and then I have to publish it. Now, what it's also telling me, and you got to make sure that when you save something, you make sure the button is clicked, and it does do the save properly. And my little trick, if you can see that little save button isn't quite activated yet. It's still blue, so that means it's still saving it. Meaning sometimes because of network issues, it gets a little bit behind. So sometimes you have to be patient. So then I click the publish button, and I should get this window that says publishing customizations. Make sure you get that, because if you don't get that, that means the customizations are not being published and made live in your dynamic system. And again, sometimes depending on how your network is, our office network here should be pretty good, but sometimes the internet is not kind to us, and we have to wait for this publishing customization screen to go away. Now I'm using Chrome to do this particular this configuration I'm doing now. And Chrome's nice, it'll give me that little pop-up. You can use any browser of your choice. You can use Internet Explorer, and I might just jump back and forth from different browsers. So Internet Explorer will work as well, and of course the new versions. Now I'm going back to my original contact screen where I see the business phone is down here. Now the other thing I'll point out, I'm going to hit F5 to refresh my screen. Now, hopefully, it will go out, clear the cache, and bring the new version of the form back in. Depending on your browser settings, sometimes the browser will hold on to the old form layout, and it won't give you the new one. Again, be a little patient, but sometimes it does work. And again, we can't say sometimes which is better, but you have to, because your desktop settings might be different than mine, might be different than everybody else's. So, but you'll see now this business phone field is now, it used to be down here, and now it's up here. A very small little change, but it just shows how, hopefully shows you how easy it is to make changes. Now, what I'm going to do here is pop up what I also should point out, now I'm going to go back from this form back to my form editor because I've kept that window open. I have the habit of keeping windows open to make sure I don't have to jump back and forth or reopen windows. I think it's a good thing, but the downside is you have to keep track of all the different windows you have open, and sometimes it gets a little bit challenging. So I've kept this, but I've kept this window open. You'll notice on the form editor, I've got, see these little dotted lines around here. There's one around here and one around here. These are sections. So I've got a number of sections. What they're good for is that if I have a group of fields, and I'm going to do something here that I'm not going to actually save, is say if I've got this section over here, and it's got this little thing, I hope you can see that it's called action cards. And say if I want this whole group up here, or even the contact information, if I highlight the contact information, I want to move the whole thing, all these fields over to this side here. I just pick up the whole section and I kind of drag and drop it, and you see that little red line there. You know, I just drag the whole thing over there. So rather than moving fields one by one, and it's a good way to control, or it is a way to control the layout of the form, because then I can control how different the size of these different little sections work. Now, luckily, there's an undo button, so I'm actually going to undo that because I really don't want that section moved over there. But if you remember when I was talking about the original form, I didn't like this guy here. Whatever was on here, it's not important to me. So I'm just going to highlight that thing. You see, I hope you can see the little blue highlight bar that comes around that. If I click that section, I can just say remove, and it'll remove the whole section from the form. If I want to remove this something like, say I don't want the fax number, because the fax number is not relevant for me. A lot of people still use it, but we don't use fax numbers in this fictitious organization that we're in. So I can highlight that one field and just say remove that field. Now, actually, there's one thing I didn't do at the beginning of all this, and I probably should have before I saved the form, was I can actually save different versions of the form. The one that comes standard with Dynamics CRM is called Contact. But maybe I want to keep that one as it is, because if I make a change that I really didn't want to do, I kind of mess it up, I want something to go back to. So what I really should do is do a save as, rather than click initially do a save as, and I'm going to say, I'm going to contact, and I'm going to say this is May 23rd. So I'm going to create a version of this, and I can actually start to use this afterwards, and I can actually go in and deactivate the old form. That's again a bit of a more of an advanced concept, but for now, like I say, it's a good idea to create copies of things rather than to modify the original text there. So I've done that. Now I've saved this. It'll actually, you see up in the upper left-hand side here, it'll give me the name of my new form here. It says Contact May 23rd. Hopefully this is big enough. Hopefully everybody can see my screen here. So now I've made this. Now you'll also notice it says summary up here. So I explained fields and I explained the sections. This, where it says summary, is actually a tab. Now I'm going to go back to my original contact form, and you'll see here, oh, I see summary. And because it's got this little triangle here, that means I can expand and collapse it. And if I click that, summary, it'll collapse all the information under that. And you'll see I had something that was farther down. If I expand that again, and what I'm going to do is hit this little, I can mouse scroll or hit the scroll button, you'll see I can see the whole form. And this form is larger than my screen. See, I keep on scrolling down. I see more tabs here. Another tab that says details. and on the bottom here, and I scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. Sometimes this can be a lot of scrolling. And I'll say, sometimes I use this thing in the middle here, but I don't want to use it all the time. So I don't want to have to scroll past it all the time. So I'm scrolling back up again. So what I want to do is actually, I can collapse that or hide it. And if I go back to my form editor again, I've jumped screens here again. And when I scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, I see this guy here. And actually, I see this Versium Predict Insights. That's something that Microsoft gives you in the demo systems, and it's a licensed add-on. But so I don't want to see this all the time. So what I want to do now, I want to show this. I want to still show it on the screen, but I want to have it collapsed. So what I can actually do is just simply hit this little button here, and you can kind of see it collapses it for me in the editor window. So now it's collapsed. So now when I save this guy, and we'll see, we'll wait for that little button to go non-blue again to make sure it does save. And I can tell that by moving the mouse over, and I know the publish isn't active yet because it hasn't saved yet. And our CRM system, and this is partially because we have this set up as a demo environment, and the priorities on the demo environments aren't as high, unfortunately, as the production instances, which kind of makes sense, I guess. But I got that little window pop up. Now I can publish it. I get the window for publishing customizations. And quite honestly, as you do more, and again, because I didn't use this demo environment for a while, on the server side where it's hosted by Microsoft, it'll bring things into memory the more you use it. So the more I use this, the faster it will get. But I will go back to my original contact screen. I'll hit the F5. And again, sometimes it may not appear, the updates might not appear when you hit the refresh the first time. Again, sometimes patience, retry again because things are cached. So now if I scroll down, let's see what it's done for me. Oh, what it should have done was actually collapse that and show it like that. So when the forms cache clears, it will actually show as a collapsed section, but then I can actually expand and collapse it just by clicking the little arrow. And the same thing with any of these little details down here. So quick example of how I can alter the forms as well. Now you also notice that as I scroll, so if I scroll up, you'll see there's at least two things that stay the same. This big gray bar here, and it's got this one field called owner, and the Dynamics has the concept of record ownership, and this record is owned by the administrator. But even as I scroll the main form, this doesn't change. This is called the header. So generally, I'm limited to the number of fields I can put in here, but I will put fields that are very important and I want to see all the time. Could be the phone number, could be anything. I'll show you how to do that. Then at the bottom, see where it says active down at the bottom. I think, can you see the bottom of the screen there? Yeah. There's also a little bar here that doesn't change when I scroll. That's the footer. So if I go back to my editor window here, I go back to my form editor, and I'm going to scroll back up again. And you'll see here I have the header up the top. There's two ways. It's kind of grayed out, but there's two ways I can access it. I can actually click this little button in the toolbar that says Edit the Header. And then when I want to go back to the body, I click that. Or if I scroll back up, I can actually just, and you can't see it, but I can double click on the header. And that will change there. Now what I can do is on the right-hand side, I haven't talked about the Field Explorer, but this is all the fields that are in the CRM system. Now, there's a little checkbox that says show me only the unused fields. Actually, what happens is Dynamics comes with a lot of fields that are in the background, like in the database, but are not put on the form because a lot of people don't use them. but they configure them in the database. So I can add those. I can also add, like say, if I do want my business phone to appear at the top and never scroll off, but I still want it down in the form here, I actually say, okay, show me all the fields, and I scroll down, and I find business phone, and I click on that, hold the mouse key down, and then drag it up into the header bar. So now it appears in the header bar. Now it'll kind of format that around a little bit for me. It'll actually, if I double click on that, it should open up the properties for that particular field, business phone. I can make the field read only up here. I can make it visible or not. And in the formatting, I can say this is how many columns it's going to occupy. I haven't talked about the column formatting yet, or I haven't talked about that. But that's my header. And then if I want to change the footer, I can scroll down. And I'm going to scroll down right to the bottom. This is a long form. I'm actually going to collapse this LinkedIn. Oh, now, because I was editing the header, so I'm still up there. So I click the body to get back to the body. And let's see, I'm going to collapse this LinkedIn thing. The LinkedIn integration is a great thing that Microsoft has now put in for sales organizations who need instant access to information from LinkedIn. A great feature there. Again, not the topic of this webinar. We can talk about that in another one. But now we have the footer at the bottom, and I'll say, let me edit the footer. And one of my bugaboos is if I scroll down through all the fields that are here, there's actually a field that says who modified this the last time, and it doesn't really appear anywhere, but it says modified by. So I'm going to drag that back onto the bottom, and that's the person, the CRM user that modified this. And then I'm going to say modified on, and I'm going to drag that over there. So now I've got modified by and modified on the footer. So let me save this form again. Again, as we go along, this will get faster in saving. And it'll say publish, and we'll publish. So always, again, make sure you save, and then you publish. Now, last time I went back to the contact window, I didn't see the changes I made, and honestly, I just realized why I didn't see those changes. Now, if anyone wants to submit an answer for this in the question window and guess why that didn't change, you'll get bonus points at the end. Sorry, there's no prizes here, but you'll get our undying admiration. But if you remember, one of my recommendations was that you create a version of the contact form. And you can select the different versions of the contact form by this little selection here and pull it down. So remember, I made one, actually when I was testing last week, May 16th, but I made one May 23rd, that was today. And that's the form I want right now. But you can see in that list, if I can go back to the list, well, now it's thinking again and loading up the form. But you could see in that list I had many different types of forms, and that's the nice thing about CRM is I might have different forms for different purposes. You know, my customer care department, my customer support department might have a different view of the contact that they want. My salespeople might have a different view, so they want the a sales view. And this for the contact form, for the account or company form, the opportunity form, all of those can have different versions. And you can control that by the people that are logging in. And again, just a tickler to tell you that that is something you can do, but in the next customization or configuration webinar, we can talk about that. You'll see here some of the information that I changed in the header. Now I got my business phone up here. When I scroll, my business phone stays at the top. I look at the bottom and I've got my footer, which has my who modified it and when this record was last modified. And that was the field I put on there. Now, one of the things we want to do, I mean, we'll get a little bit more advanced here is, and again, as you can see, I moved a field around, added some to the header and the footer. I showed you that there are many other fields, so the unused fields available for the contact record. Manager phone is examples. Again, you can see that the list is very long. And I can bring any of these down here and say, let's go back to the body again. I'm going to click on the body and say, it's important for me to add the, actually I think gender was at the bottom, but say I have a government flag on here, I can add that in and say, I just take that, grab that in, put that under a company name, and that tells me whether this is a government organization or not. That's the type of information I can track. But what if there's something that's not in here? It's not on this list here, but I want to add it in. I'll show you a couple quick examples. I want to basically create a new attribute or field in the contact database or the CRM database. And I use an example of a service company that is concerned about pets, because they want to know before they send the service tech there, is there a big dog that needs to be locked up? I want to make sure I capture that. So I want to add a field for pets. So I'm going to click the new field button. That's this button down here, which lets me add a new field to the database, which comes up with a big black screen and says it's waiting. So here we are. So I'm going to say my display name is going to be pets. This is the internal database name. Don't worry about that for now. But we're going to add this, and I can either add this as a single line of text, or I can add it as many other different options. And I'm going to add this as 2 options. And I'll talk about some of the other ones. And my options are yes or no. Do they have pets or not? So that's the only thing I want right now. So I'm going to say just save and close this, and it's going to create the field. So that's a data type of 2 options. I can change this to yes. I can change this from yes or no if I want this to say on or off or something. But basically a 2 options field is just that. It only has 2 options. So now if I go down here, I don't have pets in the list yet, and sometimes that happens, where even in the editor window, I have to hit the refresh. So I'm going to hit the F5. Oh, and I want to change. I don't think I made any changes, but let's do a save anyway. Before you refresh a screen, it'll sometimes give you information that, hey, you changed something. So now I'm going to F5 again, refresh, and I hit the F5 button. You could hit the refresh on your browser, or however you want to do. And I'm going to find that field that says pets. And where's my pets? Oh, was I not looking alphabetically? There's my pets. So let's put this down somewhere at the bottom here, just below the address. So I got my pets. Actually, I want to add another field here too, because again, the service techs, yeah, pets are good, but I also want to know what kind of pets, because that's important. Sometimes is a dog, is it a small dog, is it a big dog? So, and I mean, there's lots of variations for this, and this is probably not, there could be variations from a business point of view, but not pet name. I'm going to say pet type. I'm going to change this, my field, to pet type. And rather than a single line of text or 2 options, I'm going to create what we call is an option set. Now, there's different types of option sets, but let's keep it simple, basic, as the title of the webinar says. It's an option set, which I'm going to have a pull down to select different values from. And what I want to do actually, and this is good practice, is you can actually have an option set that's only specific to this field, pet type, or I want to have one that can be shared. And what that means, if I collect information, say in a sales process, and I have pet type on the lead form, and I have dog, cat, I want those same options to appear on the contact form. So what I'm going to do is create what we call a global option set or existing option set. So I'm going to create a new one. Again, a bit more of an advanced concept, but something I would highly recommend. So we're going to create an option set of pet type. And the values that are going to go in there are dog. And I click the little button to add another one. And I'm going to say cat. And I add the little button to collect another one. And then I say bird. Now, some people say, why would you be concerned about birds? But there was an incident where a parrot bit a service tech's ear, and which it was a problem for the service tech. So we want to know if there's a very aggressive bird on the premise. So I have now I did save and close on that option set. Now this is the field that I'm creating on the contact record. It's pointing to a global option set called pet type. And I'm going to save and close that. Where are we? Okay. And I should be able to now save the form. Again, generally you can't save the form enough or too many times. So I find it always a good idea to always save the form. I do find it sometimes I leave it open and I forget that I've made changes, but saving it every time is not a bad idea. So we wait for the save to happen. Wait for the publish button to become active. Actually, it's a couple fields, but again, this is a new thing I've just been doing in the demo system. So Chrome gives me a nice little wait button, but then it's done. Publish it. And I wait for the customization to publish. Sometimes the publish, you can do a bunch of configurations and then hit the publish. You don't have to do them one at a time, and it's probably recommended because sometimes the publish is an extra step that just takes a bit more time. Sometimes when you do more than a couple customizations or configurations, the publish will take just a little bit longer. It depends on what's going on in the system as well. So as we wait for that, then I go back to my contact screen again. I hit my F5 refresh. And should my window come back again, it'll load that all up. And we see here we have pets. Oh, actually, for some reason it got the first field but didn't get the second field. Did I actually drag the second field on the form? Again, no one caught me on that, but I don't think I did. So I go back to here. Yes, I created the field, but I didn't drop it onto the form. Darn. So where's my, so I go back to my form editor, and again, I hit the F5 refresh to get that field list again. Scroll down. Now I'm not going to, I'll do this in the next step of the publish, so we save a bit of time here. So now I got pets and pet type. What I also want to do here, and this is, I said I'd give you a hint at what business rules can do for you. Again, pets, so if you enter no for pets, that means you don't need a pet type. But if you enter yes for pets, then we want to make sure that you enter the pet type. Sound logical? Sounds logical to me. So what we want to do is actually set a business rule to make pet type mandatory whenever I set pets to yes. So that's what I'm going to do is click this business rule explorer, and I'm going to do a very simple one here. And I'll say let's create, and there's none there. So I'll create a new business rule. And it gives you kind of a nice, easy designer. So I'm going to say this is my new condition here. The condition here is that I'll say I'm going to change this to pets. It's on my contact entity, and I'm going to say when the field, and I just hit the P to get down to pets, equals, and I'm going to say the value of yes. Okay. So when the pets is equal to yes, then I'm going to add something that happens here. I'm going to set And I see I've got lots of options here. Set a field value, set a default value, show an error message. But I'm going to set business required, and I'm going to say yes. I'm going to drag that over there. So that's a drag and drop. I'm going to click on that action, and I'm going to say, require pets. And I'm going to say in the field, and I'm going to click that drop down, hit the P again to get down to my pet type. And I'm going to say that pet type is now business required. And I hit the apply button. Now, something I want to do is add another. I want to actually undo that required. I'm going to grab the business required and drag that over here. So this is when it's not equal to yes, otherwise no. I'm actually going to I'm going to highlight that, click on the field, hit my P again to get down to the pets, and then set the pet type to not business required. Now, what that does, if I toggle this, like I set it to yes, and then I said actually no, it'll actually change the business required thing as I go. You can actually see the text value rather than the drag and drop. If pets equals yes, then set the pet type to required, else set it to not business required. So we apply all that. We can validate it. I can save this. I'm just going to save the business rule. And with, kind of as with the form with publish, I have to activate the business rule. So again, 2 steps when you create a business rule: save it and activate it. So make sure you follow those 2, and it'll show you on the screen that whether business rules are active on a particular form or not. Again, a little bit. That's again a teaser for what business rules can do. But to go a bit more advanced, we'll cover that in a bit more of an advanced workshop. I closed the business rule explorer. You can see here I have, well, I didn't give it a good name. I said new business rule. Now we're going to save this. Again, save the form and publish the form to make sure I get the application of the business rule in there, the application of the pet types that I had on here, and everything is done nicely on the form. Now I'm going to close this form editor because I think I'm done with changing this form for now. I'm still on this I'll go back to my contact window and hit the F5. And we should get, so we've got our form here. We've got pet types, pets, and pet type. And let's see if I change this to a yes. Then hopefully you can see on screen there's a little red star, red asterisk that comes up here. So if I said that to no, it turns off. If I set that to yes, then I have to say that there is a dog. Now, actually, one part of the logic that I didn't put in is that I didn't say if it's no, this doesn't clear. Probably have to clear that to say that then there's something else to make sure they have something in there. But that's, hopefully you get the basic idea there. I save that, and then I go right down to the bottom here, and this little, maybe some new people won't know what that is, but that is a disk icon that says save. That's for some of us old timers that were around when they had computer disks. Maybe they're still around. You can save it. Actually, Dynamics CRM, Dynamics 365 has a auto save feature as well, if you don't know that. If I go to navigate off the form, if I've been on it for a while and there's a setting in your system that says how long that is, it will auto save for me. So sometimes I don't have to worry about it. But now I've showed you how to alter this form, move some fields around, add some fields, change the header, change the footer. The last thing I want to go to is the lists. So let's go back, and I can navigate back to the contact view or the list by clicking the contacts button up here. Now what I want to show you is how do I change the things that are on this list here? And there's a couple easy ways. If I want to actually add a filter here, like I just want to see all the phone numbers where they start with, I don't know, let's say 425. I can actually click this filter button over here. And now I can click this little drop down, which says, I can sort it, contains data. Let's just change it, just the ones that contain data, because there was a lot of blanks there. Okay, that's pretty good. Then I can say, okay, give me all the ones that are just, I turned off the filter actually by accident. So let me go back to it contains data. And I go back to that filter again, but let me add a custom filter that says, all these things it begins with, I want to just have I'll go back to my 206 area codes. That's a very simple way to alter the view, and that's just for you at the time. The problem is, what happens if I want to save this? So if I come back tomorrow, I don't want to have to do this filtering all again. So what I might do, I could actually do two things, but I go to what's called the advanced find. And I'll say, I'm going to pop up another window. What it'll tell me there is that the filters that I just put on, this business phone thing, is not going to be saved, but I'm going to redo that anyway. So I'm not going to save that. But what I'm going to do is create a view that I can come back to tomorrow. And actually, because I want to actually create a view that has my pet stuff in it, because I want to know, for some reason, I want to know all the places that have dogs in them. So I'm going to say, let's edit the columns of this view, and this is how I add columns. So I've got my full name, my email, my company name, but right after email, and just again, I'm doing something very quick here. I'm going to say add my columns to my view. And I'm going to scroll down, and this is a really great thing about Dynamics CRM. I added some fields, and I published them, and they're available to me right away from this advanced find query capability. They're available from reporting. They will be available from any custom code you want to write. They're published into the database, what's called the metadata. So I'm going to add those. And now this is my query here. Again, advanced find might have been covered in the basic concepts. So hopefully you'll have an idea about the basic concepts. But you'll see here, okay, I only have a couple of types here, a couple of records, my only one record, Abraham. But let's go down here. I'm going to multi-select a bunch of records here and use this edit because I want to create some test data. So I'm going to say in all these fields here, I'm going to change my pet data. So I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to say pet type of dog, and change all those records there. If you don't know about a multiple record change, it's a wonderful thing. So I'm going to say here, now I'm going to go back to my query, which is clicking the advanced find button, and I'm going to go to those other criteria here, find my pets by clicking P. And say, actually, I'm going to select pet type and give me all the records where pet type is equal to dog. So I'm going to get just the contacts that have dog in them. And I go to my query results, and I'll see here I've got 9 records. Now, this is my own view in the advanced find or query tool, but I wanted to save this. So I'm going to go back to the query. And I want to save this. So I'm going to say save as my active contacts with dogs. Sounds pretty simple. Now, you'll see here my saved view is now called my active contacts with dogs. If I go back, and I'm going to leave this advanced find window open, but I'm just going to click over here on this contact list. There's a lot of different views here. But what I want to do here is actually click on something, actually because I want to get that new view I just created. Oh, sometimes it pops up right away. Sometimes that old caching gets you. So I'm going to hit F5 again to refresh this window to make sure I get, and if I scroll down to the bottom, I get my views, my active contacts with dogs. So now you see I only get those 9 records in this list here. and I get the columns, pet type, and pets. Now I've created my own view that I can see here, but I want to give this to some of my colleagues so they can look at it as well. So what I'll do is go back to that advanced find window, and I'll say, look, I'm on my query window here, and I need a sharing button. So I need to click where it says Saved Views List Tools. I click that first, and what I want to do, actually I want to click, yeah. So I want to go back and get my list of saved views. Sorry, I click that first. Then I highlight the dogs one. I click the saved views, and then I say share it. I want to share it with other people. Now here I can add other people, users in my CRM system, and I'll get the list of everyone that's in my system here, or my administrator might have set up teams. And I can have a sales team, I can have a customer care team. In my case, I don't have team share set up, but I want to add this with a specific person, and I can select multiple people here by holding down the control key, putting them in the list, in the select list. I sometimes forget to do that, so make sure you do that. Click them on here, and then click select, and then say add. Sometimes there's 3 steps. So I can tell these people I've given them access to be able to see my view, but they can't update it because I don't want them to update it, and they can't delete it either, and they can't share it with anybody else. But I can add that. I can say, okay, I want these people to be able to share it with someone else. So we'll say let's do all that. So that's a quick look at how to set up a view and then share it with everybody else. Now you can create views as what are called system views. You have to be administrator to create them. And quite honestly, sometimes I think doing this view sharing is a lot better, because if you're doing them system views, everybody sees them on this big long list. And sometimes this list gets too big and long, and you don't want to do that. So you really have to weigh whether you want system views or not. So that's a quick look at how to configure views in your system. I showed you how to do forms and fields. Again, what I said, I said what I wasn't going to cover was solution management. And these solutions that are in CRM are very good. If you're doing, I'd say, any medium to advanced configurations in your system, you should use solutions. Attend our next webinar, and you'll find all, not the next one, but a webinar on our medium to advanced configuration. If you want to back up your configurations in a advanced mode, you're going to have a development environment, a production. You need solutions. You need to use change management. I didn't talk about customizations, writing code. Again, another topic that's a lot bigger than this. I need to be the developer of that, and the workflow processes. Again, sending emails, changing records, all things that you're probably going to need in a CRM system. And again, we'll cover that in another webinar. I've covered business rules a little bit, a teaser on business rules, but there's a lot more you can do with them, and hopefully we're going to provide you with that information. So, quite honestly, I haven't seen a lot of questions in the chat window, so if you have any, please feel free. We're at the 11:54 mark. Sometimes I talk a lot. I've been told that. I didn't think it would take me 55 minutes to do this, but if you have any questions as a follow-up, my email address is on the screen here. That's glenn.howie@crmdynamics.com. Feel free to send me an email. A questionnaire we just went through, one of the questions was, do you answer your inbox emails promptly? I said, yes, that's one thing I really like to do, is not let my inbox stack up. So I'll try and get back to you, or forward it on to one of our techs or another person that might be able to help you. Again, CRM Dynamics is the largest Dynamics CRM consulting partner in Canada. We have more consultants on staff and are really equipped and able to help you at all levels. So thank you for attending today. And again, if you have anything else, let us know, and we look forward to seeing you on another webinar.